saying bye to someone and then walking in the same direction. It starts perfectly normally. The conversation ends. Someone says bye. The other person says bye. Both turn around with complete confidence. Then, within approximately 4 steps, it becomes clear that both people are heading the exact same way. There is no dignified solution to this. Walking faster does not help because the other person is also walking faster. Slowing down creates a different kind of awkwardness. Some people attempt a sudden fake phone call. Others pretend to have forgotten something and stop completely. A few brave individuals just laugh and acknowledge what is happening. Most people stare straight ahead and walk in absolute silence, hoping the universe resolves it before they reach the next corner. It never resolves cleanly. Someone always has to turn off somewhere first, and the relief when that happens is completely disproportionate to how small the situation actually was. Forgetting someone's name mid-conversation, the name was there, completely accessible, used confidently at the start of the conversation. Then something happened, a distraction, a thought, a minor lapse, and now it is gone. Not slightly fuzzy, gone. The conversation has to continue regardless, because stopping to say, I have completely forgotten your name despite knowing you for 3 years is not a realistic option. So the workarounds begin. Avoiding using their name at all, hoping someone else walks over and uses it, subtly checking their phone contact, asking a mutual friend with extreme casualness. The worst version is when an introduction is required, standing beside this person, needing to say their name out loud, and producing nothing. The brain, under pressure, does not helpfully retrieve the name. It offers completely unrelated information instead. The name usually comes back approximately 40 minutes after it no longer matters. Saying you too at the wrong time. The server puts down the food and says enjoy your meal. The brain, operating on autopilot, responds you too before any conscious thought can intervene. The server does not have a meal. The server is working. The words are already out. Nothing can be done. Some people try to recover with a small laugh. Some look at their plate immediately and never make eye contact again. Some say, thank you. None of these recoveries are particularly effective. The same thing happens at movie theaters, at birthday parties, on phone calls ending with, have a good day. The brain hears a pleasant farewell and files an automatic pleasant response without checking whether the response makes any logical sense in the situation. It is not stupidity. It is the brain running a social script that works 95% of the time and catastrophically misfires in the remaining 5. Waving back at someone who was not waving at you. Someone raises their hand in the direction of where you are standing. The wave is already happening before the full picture registers. The hand is up. The smile is on. The commitment has been made. Then the person walks straight past towards someone standing behind you. The wave was never for you. The person it was for has seen everything. So has the person who was actually waving. So have several bystanders. The hand must now come down from a height that felt completely reasonable 2 seconds ago and now feels like it is being lowered from somewhere near the ceiling. Some people convert the wave into a hair adjustment. Some point casually at something nearby as though that was the original intention. Some simply accept what happened, lower their hand at a normal pace and stare into the middle distance for a few seconds, processing the experience before continuing with their day. Awkward eye contact. Eye contact is one of those things that works perfectly until it is noticed. The moment a person becomes conscious of making eye contact, it immediately becomes a problem requiring active management. Too long and it becomes a stare. Too short and it seems evasive. Looking away too quickly seems rude. Holding it slightly too long seems intense. In a normal conversation, this cycle runs unconsciously and nobody thinks about it. In an elevator, a waiting room, or a long corridor, it becomes an entire psychological event. Two people who do not know each other, sharing a space, both acutely aware that they have already made eye contact once and must now decide what the next 4 minutes of proximity will look like. The ceiling becomes very interesting. Phones are checked with great urgency. Some people develop a sudden need to read every word of whatever signage is nearby. All of this because two people accidentally looked at each other for 1 second too long, laughing at the wrong moment. Somewhere in the brain, there is a mechanism that identifies the most inappropriate possible moment to find something funny and activates exclusively at that moment. A serious announcement, a solemn occasion, someone describing something genuinely upsetting. The laugh does not come from finding the situation funny, it comes from the sheer pressure of knowing that laughing right now would be the worst possible thing to do. The more inappropriate the laugh would be, the stronger the urge becomes. Suppressing it makes it worse. The shoulders start going. The face contorts into something that looks deeply suspicious. Eyes water. The people nearby notice something is wrong, and this makes it significantly worse. There is no science that fully explains why the brain does this. The brain appears to have no explanation either. It just does it and leaves the person to manage the consequences entirely alone. The awkward hallway dance. Two people approaching each other in a corridor. One moves right, the other moves right at exactly the same moment. Both correct left simultaneously, both correct right again. This loop can run for 2 or 3 full cycles before one person stops completely and makes a deliberate, exaggerated gesture indicating the other should pass. The whole thing lasts approximately 5 seconds. It feels considerably longer. What makes it stranger is that both people are trying to be considerate, and the consideration is precisely what creates the problem. If one person just walked straight ahead without adjusting, it would resolve immediately. Instead, both people are actively attempting to get out of each other's way and succeeding only in being in each other's way more efficiently. Some people laugh. Some people do not make eye contact for the rest of the interaction. Nobody ever mentions it afterward. Accidentally interrupting someone, there is a gap in conversation, a natural pause, long enough to reasonably indicate the other person has finished speaking. A response begins. Then it becomes clear immediately that they had not finished speaking. Both people are now talking simultaneously. Both stop. Both say sorry. One gestures for the other to continue. The other also gestures for the first to continue. This exchange can happen 2 or 3 times before someone just picks a word and commits to it. The interrupted person sometimes loses their thought entirely in the process. The interrupter spends the next portion of the conversation being slightly too careful about waiting, which creates a different kind of awkward pause after everything the other person says. There is no perfect timing in conversation. Every person alive has done this. The people who claim they never interrupt anyone are usually the ones who wait so long to respond that the other person has already moved on. Waving back at someone who was not waving at you. Someone raises their hand in the direction of where you are standing. The wave is already happening before the full picture registers. The hand is up. The smile is on. The commitment has been made. Then the person walks straight past towards someone standing behind you. The wave was never for you. The person it was for has seen everything. So has the person who was actually waving. So have several bystanders. The hand must now come down from a height that felt completely reasonable 2 seconds ago and now feels like it is being lowered from somewhere near the ceiling. Some people convert the wave into a hair adjustment. Some point casually at something nearby as though that was the original intention. Some simply accept what happened, lower their hand at a normal pace, and stare into the middle distance for a few seconds, processing the experience before continuing with their day. Not knowing when a conversation is over, the conversation has reached a natural end. Both people know it. The first goodbye has been said, but neither person has physically left yet. So another small comment emerges. Then a response. Then a slight laugh. Then another goodbye. Then a follow-up thought. This cycle can run for several minutes past the point where both people were clearly ready to leave. Phone calls are particularly vulnerable to this. Goodbyes get said 3 or 4 times before the call actually ends. In person, it involves slow backward movement, repeated acknowledgement, and a series of statements that are neither meaningful nor designed to actually continue the conversation. They are simply verbal padding. Filling the gap between the last real exchange and the moment when leaving becomes physically possible. Some conversations end, others just gradually dissolve. Nobody knows exactly when it happened. Sending a text to the wrong person. The message was written for one specific person, sent to a completely different one. The realization arrives at varying speeds depending on the content of the message. Sometimes it is harmless, a meme sent to a coworker instead of a friend. Sometimes it is significantly less harmless. The window between sending and the other person reading is the most uncomfortable window in modern human experience. The unsend function, where it exists, has never been pressed faster by anyone in history. Where it does not exist, the follow-up "sorry, wrong person" arrives within seconds, which resolves nothing because the message has already been read. What the original recipient does with this information varies enormously by person. Some ignore it. Some reply asking what it was about. Some bring it up weeks later at the most inconvenient possible moment. The person who sent it remembers it for considerably longer than anyone else involved. If you recognize yourself in more than 3 of these, that is not a personal failing. That is just being a person who interacts with other people regularly. Every single one of these has a name, a psychological explanation, and happens to someone somewhere in the world approximately every few seconds. Subscribe for more videos like this every week, and drop yours in the comments. Which social glitch have you experienced most recently?